And a pleasant good day to you and yours, and welcome to Island Tea for today. I'm going to be your host as Hortensia is otherwise occupied and will not be in today. For those of you who are big fans of Hortensia, as I am also, I know that you will be looking forward to seeing her, having her company whenever she can grace our studios again. Now I'm going through a bit of difficulties, technical difficulties here, so I'm gonna go through as best I can. Won't be able to play certain things, but let me see if I can get some information here and get things rolling. Uh,
You're in the mix with the DJ always banging the real hip hop.
Okay, I'm back with you. The time is approximately 8:17. Bit of a late start, but due to circumstances entirely beyond my control. Let me give you the numbers that you can call and interact if you wish to do so. If there's anything of relevance, anything that you feel is important enough for you to bring it to the fore and we have a bit of a discussion on it, then feel free to do so. And the numbers are the local numbers 4660989, 6620989, and 7620989. The UK numbers 033 344 The US number 1718. Let me repeat that again. The US number 718-285-6984. The number if you reside in the Canada area is 305-921-4619. Okay? And we're going to get things we're going to start by revisiting our neighboring island over there in Guyana. We've been having a bit of a discussion as to Guyana and recent happenings there. And I like to play clips so you can hear, and then we have a bit of a discussion. The last discussion we had along that vein in relation to Guyana was with Afan Ali asking the U.S. to assist him by building a base in Guyana, and the information said that he signed a treaty that gave or gives the U.S. certain exclusive rights to things as they relate to the oil drilling in the Essequibo region. And we were asking the question if it would not have been wiser for him to bide his time and do a bit of negotiation before reaching out for the U.S. to set up a base in Guyana, because that we feel, many feel, could sort of agitate the situation and cause Venezuela to build up its forces along the border and further strain the situation as it is. So now I'm gonna play for you a clip that asks the question: what would a U.S. base being set up in Guyana, how could it influence things in the region?
Oil from Guyana for protection from Venezuela. Does Trump want free oil from Guyana for protection from Venezuela? Trump's strategy: resources for protection. Donald Trump has always viewed U.S. military power as a bargaining chip rather than a traditional diplomatic tool. Unlike past presidents who framed military alliances around shared democratic values or security commitments, Trump has repeatedly hinted that U.S. protection should come at a price, often in the form of economic or resource-based concessions. This approach aligns with his broader America First policy, where he emphasizes transactional diplomacy over long-standing alliances. Throughout his presidency and beyond, he has suggested that wealthy nations should pay the U.S. for military assistance, whether in NATO, the Middle East, or Asia. This philosophy is now extending to South America, particularly in Guyana. With Venezuela's renewed threats over the disputed Essequibo region, an area rich in oil and natural resources, Trump sees an opportunity. He could offer Guyana military protection against Venezuelan aggression, but in return, he may demand favorable access to Guyana's massive oil reserves. Given the significant investments by American oil giant ExxonMobil in Guyana, Trump may leverage U.S. influence to ensure that Guyana prioritizes U.S. interests in oil extraction and exportation. If Trump successfully brokers such a deal, it would mark a shift in how the U.S. engages with its allies and partners in the Western Hemisphere. Instead of providing security based on diplomatic commitments, he would be establishing a model where financial or resource-based contributions are prerequisites for American military support. This could lead other nations, including those in the Caribbean and South America, to reevaluate their alliances with the U.S. and consider diversifying their security partnerships with other global powers. Why Guyana's oil matters to Trump. Guyana is home to one of the fastest-growing oil reserves in the world, with recent discoveries placing it among the top oil producers in the Western Hemisphere. This small South American nation has become a major player in global energy markets, with vast offshore reserves drawing the interest of major corporations, including ExxonMobil. Under a Trump administration, securing access to Guyana's oil could be crucial for both economic and strategic reasons, particularly as the U.S. seeks to counter China's growing influence in the Caribbean and South America. Trump has long advocated for energy independence and dominance, often pushing for more favorable oil deals with allies and economic partners. By framing U.S. military support as a necessity for Guyana's security against Venezuela, he could pressure Guyana's leadership into providing the U.S. with preferential oil agreements. This would not only strengthen America's energy security, but also counter Venezuela's influence in the region, which remains aligned with China, Russia, and Iran. Beyond economic factors, Trump's interest in Guyana's oil could also serve as a geopolitical strategy to regain leverage over global energy markets. With increasing competition from oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia and Russia, securing a steady supply from Guyana would allow the U.S. to maintain greater control over production and pricing. If Trump succeeds in negotiating a resource for protection deal, it could lead to further tensions with OPEC and non-aligned oil-producing nations that see such arrangements as a threat to their market influence. The Venezuela-Guyana border dispute. The border dispute between Venezuela and Guyana is one of the longest-running territorial conflicts in Latin America. Venezuela claims the Essequibo region, a vast area covering two-thirds of Guyana, as its own territory, based on historical treaties dating back to the 19th century. In recent years, the discovery of significant oil reserves in Essequibo has reignited tensions, with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro taking an increasingly aggressive stance. Maduro has even conducted military exercises near the disputed border and held a controversial referendum, rallying public support for Venezuela's claim. Given this backdrop, Trump could position himself as a defender of Guyana's sovereignty while simultaneously pushing for American access to its oil. A potential military presence in Guyana would serve as both a warning to Venezuela and a strategic move to secure America's energy interests. However, such a deal would not come without controversy. If Guyana were to agree, it could face backlash from CARICOM nations and other global powers wary of increased U.S. militarization in the region. Moreover, Venezuela's alliance with Russia and China could complicate matters further. If Trump moves forward with military support for Guyana, it could prompt a stronger response from these global powers, potentially escalating tensions in the region. Any perceived U.S. intervention in Guyana's affairs might also embolden Maduro to seek greater military assistance from Moscow and Beijing, creating a geopolitical standoff that could extend beyond Latin America. Trump's similar playbook in Ukraine. The idea of Trump seeking economic returns for military protection is not unique to Guyana. Reports have surfaced that he has considered a similar arrangement with Ukraine, suggesting that U.S. military support against Russia should be tied to access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources. Ukraine is rich in rare earth minerals, lithium, and other critical materials essential for modern technology, and Trump's focus on resource-based diplomacy could mean pressuring Ukraine into granting the U.S. economic privileges in exchange for continued military aid. This approach reflects Trump's broader skepticism of unconditional foreign aid. He has often criticized military assistance that does not yield direct benefits for the U.S., arguing that allies should contribute more financially or economically. By linking security guarantees to resource access, he could reshape traditional U.S. alliances into more transactional relationships. However, such a stance risks alienating allies and undermining America's long-term strategic influence. If Trump successfully pressures Ukraine into such a deal, it could set a precedent for future U.S. engagements with allied nations. Countries facing security threats may feel compelled to surrender economic resources in exchange for military protection, fundamentally altering the nature of global alliances. Such a shift could also encourage adversaries like Russia and China to offer competing security deals, further fragmenting global diplomatic ties. Global consequences. If Trump pursues a protection for resources strategy with Guyana, it could have significant geopolitical repercussions. Venezuela, already an ally of Russia and China, could be further pushed into their sphere of influence. If Trump explicitly ties U.S. military support to oil access, it could provoke diplomatic backlash from Venezuela's allies, leading to increased tensions between Washington and Beijing or Moscow. Additionally, such a move might encourage other nations to adopt a more aggressive stance in securing their own resource-driven interests. For Guyana, accepting such a deal could mean greater security against Venezuela, but at the cost of economic sovereignty. While Trump's offer of protection might seem appealing in the short term, Guyana could face long-term consequences if its oil wealth becomes overly dependent on U.S. interests. Meanwhile, CARICOM nations and regional leaders may push back against U.S. interference, seeing it as a form of neocolonialism rather than genuine assistance. Ultimately, Trump's approach to Guyana's oil and Ukraine's minerals signals a major shift in U.S. foreign policy, one that prioritizes economic gain over traditional alliances. If such tactics become the norm, they could erode trust in U.S. commitments worldwide, leading allies to seek alternative security arrangements. The long-term impact of these deals could reshape global power dynamics, altering America's role in international relations for years to come.
And we see this being played out quite recently. Donald Trump, I think on the 2nd of April, 2nd of this month, had a press conference and he said that everyone, the entire world, friends and foe, have been sort of leeching off of and ripping off was one of the phrases that he used, the U.S. And so he's going to be proposing, he's going to be imposing sanctions, and on the Caribbean, I think the sanction is going to be about 10% on our exported goods and so forth to the United States of America. And we see and heard something from Mayor Motley recently in relation to the Trump administration's stance as it relates to ships that bring goods, Chinese ship to be more precise, that brings good to the region. So as things are playing out in relation to the Caribbean, CARICOM, and the U.S., it seems as if though these are factors that could really impact us in what seems to be more negative ways than as opposed to positive ways. Before I continue, let me apologize for us not being able to bring you the news and sports this morning, as our automated system is acting up presently, so we're going to be working on that, and by tomorrow we should be back on track again. My apologies for not being able to bring you, having brought you the news and sports earlier today. So like I said, this issue, recently our own Prime Minister had his round table, I think it was, and he divulged that he had been to Africa and they were seeking to strengthen ties with Africa, certain places in Africa. And so I feel that Guyana and Afrinali should have waited and taken some time to negotiate before actually, if it is true that he actually was the one who enticed the U.S. to come and set up a base in the Guyana, in the Essequibo region, then I feel, and many others also feel, that he should have taken his time and waited and seen how things played out before jumping to such what I feel is sort of a drastic move, because that could impact us in serious ways. And because of that move, there are those who are questioning if Guyana is moving in the line of that individual. Let me see, what's his name? Is Guyana moving much in the vein of Zelensky, and will Guyana wind up being the same in our region? So I'm going to play that clip because, like I said, I like to play things in a way that sort of follow each other so that we can tie them in and see how they play out. And then I'm going to, let's play this one and then I'll be back.
The long-standing territorial dispute between Guyana and Venezuela over the Essequibo region has escalated in recent years, raising concerns about a potential military conflict. Given Guyana's limited military capability, many wonder if the Caribbean community, CARICOM, could protect Guyana in the event of a Venezuelan invasion. The latest tensions flared up on March 1st, 2025, when a Venezuelan military vessel entered disputed waters near an ExxonMobil oil platform, triggering condemnation from Guyana's President Irfan Ali. Venezuela's government responded by labelling Ali the Zelensky of the Caribbean, and accusing foreign powers of stoking conflict. The United States swiftly backed Guyana.
Attention to South America, where a big claim by Nicolas Maduro has sparked a debate. He's the Venezuelan president, Maduro. He says America's CIA has secret military bases in the region.
Cautioning Venezuela against further provocations. Meanwhile, CARICOM expressed deep concern over Venezuela's actions and reaffirmed the importance of resolving the dispute through the International Court of Justice, ICJ. CARICOM's military strength. Can it defend Guyana? CARICOM is primarily an economic and political alliance, not a military coalition like NATO. It consists of 15 full members, but only a few have standing military forces. While CARICOM has issued diplomatic statements supporting Guyana, it lacks a joint military command or a mutual defence agreement. CARICOM member states with military forces. Jamaica Defence Force, JDF, small but well trained.
My fellow Guyanese, I address you today to inform you of a serious development concerning our nation's maritime territory. This morning, Saturday, 1st of March 2025, at approximately 7 hours, a Venezuelan armed patrol ship entered Guyana's waters. During this incursion, the Venezuelan vessel approached various assets in our exclusive waters, including FPSO Prosperity. Based on visible markings, the patrol vessel was identified as ABF Guakeri PO-11 IMO 4695542, a Venezuelan Coast Guard vessel. Our assets and FPSO Prosperity are operating lawfully within Guyana's exclusive economic zone. The patrol vessel transmitted a radio message declaring that the FPSO was operating in what it termed disputed international waters before continuing its course in a southwesterly direction toward other FPSOs. Let me be unequivocal. Guyana's maritime boundaries are recognized under international law, and this incursion is a matter of grave concern. However, I assure you that my government is not acting precipitously. We are addressing the situation within the seriousness and responsibility it requires. We have already summoned the Venezuelan ambassador. The Minister of Foreign Affairs would have summoned him to his office, registering our strong protests over this matter. Additionally, I've already advised our embassy in Venezuela, in Caracas, to lodge a formal protest with the Venezuelan government. I'm pleased to also communicate to you that we have reached out to all our international partners, and all our international partners have responded positively. These include the UK, France, the USS, RSS, CARICOM, and we continue to work with other neighbors.
Barbados Defence Force, BDF, primarily focused on national security. Belize Defence Force, BDF, small land and air units. Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force, TTDF, more capable than most Caribbean forces, but not enough to challenge Venezuela. Suriname National Army, limited military strength. These forces combined would not be able to counter Venezuela's vastly superior military. CARICOM's military is primarily designed for internal security, disaster response, and peacekeeping operations, not large-scale warfare. How powerful is Venezuela's military? Venezuela possesses one of the most powerful military forces in South America. Despite economic struggles, it has maintained significant military capabilities. Venezuela's military strength, active personnel, over 100,000 troops, tanks and armoured vehicles, more than 500 tanks and 2,000 plus armoured vehicles. Air Force, modern Russian fighter jets, Su-30s, helicopters and drone capabilities. Navy, several warships and submarines, missile systems, advanced anti-aircraft and ballistic missile capabilities. In a direct military confrontation, Guyana alone or with CARICOM would stand little chance against Venezuela's superior numbers, equipment and firepower. Which countries would defend Guyana? Guyana does not have the military strength to repel an invasion alone. However, it has key international allies that could intervene diplomatically or militarily, likely allies of Guyana in a war United States, US. The US has strong economic and political ties with Guyana, especially due to ExxonMobil's oil interests. The US has already signalled its support for Guyana and might deploy forces if its economic interests are threatened. United Kingdom, UK. As a former British colony, Guyana has historical ties to the UK, which might offer diplomatic or limited military support. Brazil. While Brazil maintains neutrality, it shares a border with Guyana and would not want instability in the region. It may provide logistical and defence support. France. Since French Guiana is nearby, France could engage in diplomatic or defensive actions to ensure regional stability. Canada. Canada has a history of supporting Caribbean nations in crises and may contribute diplomatically or through military assistance.
So when we look at the whole situation, we realize that this is not a simple matter. And we understand Guyana's position, feeling insecure, feeling rather intimidated. But with the whole Essequibo situation awaiting a decision from the courts, and with Venezuela's continued posturing, there are those who feel that it would be better to move along the lines of diplomacy as opposed to using military tactics or might, because with the U.S. building up, even though the U.S. is a big superpower, estimated the number one military might in the world, it would only agitate the situation if the U.S. goes along and has a base there, and tension between the U.S. and Venezuela heightens, and Venezuela then seeks help from its allies, and people begin to line up, taking sides, and tensions rising, and so on and so forth. There's also another aspect to it why there are those who feel that a diplomatic move and movement would be better, because we have seen this, not the military tension and so forth, but we've seen the exploitation of the region in terms of oil and oil resources in another neighboring island, and that is Trinidad and Tobago. We who reside here and have grown up in the Caribbean region, we are well aware of Trinidad and Tobago and its perceived oil wealth. And we heard of the infamous statement, oil don't spoil, from one of their leaders back in the day. But if we look at how things have played out for Trinidad and Tobago in terms of oil, we will get a very, very clear picture of what may very well play out in Guyana, because what seems to happen is that these ExxonMobil and the U.S. and whoever has an interest in getting the oil comes in, sets up, and over a long period, they are the ones who benefit from extracting the oil, and the natives of the places, not only in the Caribbean but around the globe, more specifically in Africa, they garner very little. And So I'm going to play a clip that asks a question. And the question is that makes a statement that is. And the statement is the Caribbean, it is important that the Caribbean observe what is happening in Guyana, bearing in mind how things have played out in Trinidad and Tobago in relation to their oil or perceived oil wealth, because with all the oil that has been extracted from Trinidad and Tobago over the years, Trinidad and Tobago still has a high level of poverty and still has infrastructural flaws and things that need to be taken care of. So the question is, who really will benefit? It is one thing to say, okay, you set up base here and you offer us a defense and you extract the oil, but to what extent do the natives or will Guyana benefit from what is happening, or how things would play out in relation to Guyana and its oil?
Guyana was once one of the poorest countries in South America, but in just a few short years, it's become the region's oil-powered superstar. From pumping a humble 15,000 barrels a day in 2019 to over 630,000 barrels by 2024, Guyana's rise is nothing short of explosive. But here's the question no one's daring to ask out loud. Is this an economic miracle or a ticking time bomb? Let's unpack the Guyanese oil rush and why the rest of the Caribbean is watching closely. Guyana is a member of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, a grouping of 20 countries, including 15 member states and 5 associate members, established in 1973 to promote economic integration and cooperation among its members. In 2015, seismic waves didn't just come from the ocean floor, they shook the foundations of Guyana's economy. That year, ExxonMobil and its partners discovered massive offshore oil reserves in the Stabroek Block, about 120 miles off the coast. What started as hope soon turned into production, with oil flowing commercially by late 2019. It wasn't just another oil discovery, it was a game changer, the kind that rewrites history books. By 2024, Guyana was producing more than 630,000 barrels per day, and projections say it could reach 1.3 million by 2027. That would place this small Caribbean nation among the top oil producers in the world, shoulder to shoulder with global giants. Oil has catapulted Guyana into economic overdrive. The gross domestic product, GDP, numbers are jaw-dropping. 2020, 43.5% growth. 2021, 20.1%. 2022, 62.3%, the highest in the world. 2023, 38.4%. 2024, 34%. Guyana went from being a slow-moving economy to becoming the fastest growing in the world. And it's not just GDP. Export earnings have exploded too. In 2023 alone, Guyana earned $17.4 billion from exports, with $13.4 billion from crude petroleum. Oil now makes up 88% of all exports, a complete reversal from its previously diversified trade base. And then there's the Natural Resource Fund, Guyana's sovereign wealth vault. It now holds over 758 billion Guyanese dollars, with more than 2.6 billion US dollars expected in oil revenue for this year. That's about 37% of the country's national budget. Where there's oil, investors follow, and in Guyana's case, they've come running. Foreign direct investment, FDI, shot up 60.5% in 2019. ExxonMobil alone has already pumped in $30 billion into Guyana's oil sector. But this rapid inflow of foreign capital raises another question. Who's really in control? And is Guyana building long-term independence or dependency? With money pouring in, you would expect streets paved with gold, but not quite. Guyana still struggles with poverty, inequality, and unemployment, especially among youth. In 2021, youth unemployment stood at 29.9%. And despite the oil boom, many ordinary citizens feel left behind. There are warnings of a resource curse, a well-documented phenomenon where countries rich in oil and minerals experience slower growth, poor governance, and social unrest. Guyana could be walking straight into that trap. Political tensions, corruption allegations, and growing ethnic divides have also raised red flags. Many fear that the wealth from oil may enrich a select few while widening the gap for everyone else. The deeper question is this: can oil wealth buy social harmony, or will it fuel division? Guyana's oil boom is a climate paradox. This is a country famed for its rainforests, rich biodiversity, and ecological beauty. But oil production carries massive risks: oil spills, coastal erosion, marine pollution, and rising greenhouse gas emissions. Flaring of natural gas alone could push 25 million metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere annually. That's a massive carbon footprint for a nation once seen as a climate-friendly green zone. Environmental advocates warn of a weakened regulatory system. Some contracts reportedly limit the government's ability to intervene in oil operations, even if environmental harm is discovered. Imagine that: a small country risking its environment and sovereignty for big oil. Here's where it gets tricky. Yes, Guyana's GDP is climbing, but can it translate oil money into roads, schools, healthcare, and jobs fast enough? If not, frustration will grow. And history shows us, whether in Nigeria, Venezuela, or Equatorial Guinea, resource wealth without responsible governance is a recipe for disaster. It also brings volatility. One crash in global oil prices and the entire budget could go belly up. Despite the risks, there is real hope on the ground. Many Guyanese believe this is their moment, an opportunity to lift the country into a modern era. There's anticipation of job creation, better infrastructure, improved electricity, and national pride. But hope must be backed by planning. Will there be enough investment in human capital to meet the demands of this new oil economy? Will schools train the next generation of engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs, or will foreigners continue to dominate the sector? The answers to those questions will decide whether this boom becomes a bubble or a breakthrough. Guyana's story holds valuable lessons for us. The importance of governance when wealth surges overnight, the danger of over-reliance on a single sector, and the urgency of social inclusion in national development. Guyana has the cash, but must still build the discipline. Guyana is standing at the crossroads of history. Wealth is pouring in, the headlines are glowing, and the future looks bright. Is this the Caribbean's next great success story, or will the dream be drowned in oil?
I feel it could be the Caribbean's next big success story, but it has to be formatted in a way that it benefits the citizens of Guyana and by extension the citizens of the wider region. Because as said and as we have seen played out, we know that Guyana has a lot of mineral wealth. Guyana has gold, Guyana has bauxite, and Guyana is still exceedingly poor. And all of these minerals are being taken out of Guyana, and Guyana is still. So who's really benefiting? Hello, caller.
Hi, good morning, Quinn.
Yeah, good day. And how are you today?
I'm giving thanks for life, giving thanks for another day.
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Well, I'm hearing you. I can distinguish what you're saying, but it sounds a little bit light. But let's work with it.
Okay, can I speak up a little louder? Can you hear me clearer?
Well, I can hear you louder, but it's still a bit muffled. But go ahead. I'll tell you if I cannot understand what you're saying.
How about now? Is it better?
A little better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And we wish the exploration of oil in Guyana all the best. But 9 out of 10 times, the lion's share does not redound benefits to the way it ought to be
Yeah.
directed. And the reference that was made by the person, the narrator of what we just played, and I attest to it, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago in our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So how can Guyana practice the best, extrapolate the best practices from the misfortunes, the mistakes that those other nations, succumb to,
Yeah.
and chart their way forward.
What do you
Because
feel?
Guyana's benefit is our benefit also.
Most,
you know?
most definitely.
But we don't, for some reason, when it comes to solidarity in all things, we don't show solidarity. And that is why the dispute with Guyana and Venezuela needs to be resolved without the big players getting involved, because they're the ones that's going to benefit. And it is said, when elephants fight, the grass gets trampled.
Yes.
And in this case, it's only Venezuela and Guyana is going to get trampled as being the grass in these scenarios.
Yeah.
Where the elephants in the room would be the United States and Russia or China.
Yeah.
And it did say Venezuela arsenal of air flight, air military, they have some probably Su-35 or whatever, those Russian. I recall when there were some Russian fighter planes went to Venezuela. Then after Maduro took over from Chavez, Hugo Chavez,
Yes.
and tension was high,
Yes.
and they flew across the northern part, the Antarctic,
Yes.
coming across.
Yes.
And yes, and I think by then and now, Venezuela's security, Venezuela's military would have gotten bolstered
Yes.
by Russian military experts. But we don't want to see that.
Definitely, we don't want to see that.
Now let's bring it home here. We will go back and forth a little bit. Let's bring it home here, because our beloved Prime Minister did travel to the continent, and I tuned into his press conference, in the nick of time when he was the Prime Minister, was encouraging, and that's what Prime Ministers are to do: encourage their national, lead from the front.
Yes.
Huh? If you hear our Prime Minister said it, and we know he's not lying, we should able to take advice. When the Prime Minister said that he visited Africa, and, whenever a Prime Minister or someone, because when we say that the populace doesn't believe us, when we say, Africa is home. You know what I mean? We.
Yeah.
When we say we, including the diaspora of the continent, as like one, we doesn't get the recognition. So therefore, we would hope that the populace will listen to when the Prime Minister said, we. You know, they are us, we are them.
Yes.
You know, to say, well, that's home. Like Cartensia would deny that that's home. You know, Cartensia, good morning, Cartensia, wherever you are. But, she would deny, you know, like she would be apprehensive, like, are you sure that they're going to accept us?
Yeah.
I don't need to be accepted by my sisters and brothers. I am. And that is why, Quint, I don't like the idea of the African leaders talking about we got to get this and we got to get that documentation, we got to get that documentation, as if they don't know who we are.
Yeah.
As if, well, we supposed to be just like an ordinary visitor that comes in from the continent.
But
when
recently,
taken there from there, we didn't need any documents.
recently, there are some leaders, very few, but recently there are some who are saying not only their neighbors in Africa, but the diaspora will be able to come to their countries without inhibitions. But we need to see more and more of that across the African continent.
Yes, because when we were taken, and I said we, Bob Marley said it too. The dear beloved Bob Marley, who's the whole world acknowledge his music, his message. I remember on the slave ship when they brutalized my very soul. One would ask the question, well, Bob Marley is just a young man. When he was on the slave ship, you see, the mother who bore Bob Marley and the grandmother of that mother and the great-grandmother of that mother, whosoever what that generation was in the bowels of the slave ship. So we are too distant. We are too distant. So we are distancing ourselves from the good, the bad, and the ugly of Africa.
Yes.
Including the good.
Yes. Most
So
definitely.
the Chinese now, they're just going there with jacket and tie and pretending that they're business people, and they're becoming inheritance of our wealth through gold mines and other mining. And we now continue to believe the lie that don't have nothing to do with Africa, don't have nothing to do with Africa. And the UAE and Dubai and all them, you go over there and you buy the gold. Now there's a rumor that one of the ministers in government, the president-sitting government, own condos in Dubai. We go there and we buy the gold. We go there and we invest in the real estate and everything, right? But where did their wealth came from? Their generational wealth came from? I can assure you, if you follow the money trail, it might just ended up back in Africa, in your village, where your great grandparents once were.
You know, one of the main reasons why I delve so much into the Guyanese situation with the oil is because of the very same things that you are outlining. I don't want this to be the same old, where ExxonMobil and those others come in and they extract and they have all these concessions. I mean, when you hear the concessions, imagine a company comes in extracting vast amount of wealth and at the same time still demanding all of these concessions. To me, that is unreasonable, right? Ridiculous concessions, exemptions from almost everything. Add that to the wealth that they're extracting from your country. We don't want to see our Caribbean islands continue down that vein.
and 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 also there is an ethnic rift. You don't find it in Pinkerton even. It's more political tribalism in Pinkerton even.
Yeah.
But even there, it is political in like Guyana and maybe Trinidad to a less extent, or on the same level, because of the indentured servants and the indigenous peoples in Guyana, especially.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, when the doctrine of this discovery was decreed by the papal bull, the writ by the papacy,
Yeah.
Pope, went out to mainly Spain and Portugal that spearheaded that trust into the seas and into finding new lands and everything. When the Spanish conquistadors, or whatever we call them, went to South America, there were peoples. There were peoples on these islands also.
Yeah.
Thus, the doctrine of discovery is to go and explore new lands, go and find new lands, because at the time Europe needed to be rebuilt from the Dark Ages and the conquest of the Umayyads, Islamists, conquest into El Andalus, the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal. So after Alfonso the Great and they took over and restricted the Moors from that part and like Granada and the last stronghold and so forth. And then the expulsion of the Latino Jews and these people who came out here, the Huguenots and all of that, to these islands. That is when the doctrine of discovery was decreed for these people to go out now and find new lands because Europe need to rebuild.
Yeah.
That is why there's a gentleman in the European Union spoke about the European space, which is a Garden of Eden. And you know what I mean, how invaders are invading our garden. You know, they could only say that now because of where they have built. It is there. You can see it. You know what I mean? But on the backs of who? The European space has become a Garden of Eden. Remember, the European space was like dog eat dog, you know. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. And that is when they went out into spaces and they see paradise elsewhere where fruit trees and trees was blossoming with fruit and everything. They say, huh? Wow. We cannot afford to be living like this no more, where we're eating each other. And also when it came to what became known as the Scramble for Africa and the Berlin Conference in 1834, 1835, somewhere around there, 1884, 85. It was for the space known as Zaire, you know,
Yeah.
which became the Democratic Republic of the Congo,
yeah.
and Congo Brazzaville,
Yeah.
and the Chi Congos and Angola. It was for that particular space with King Leopold. And then they widened it, they broadened their scope, as to say, the entire continent of Africa. And they sat down. So our story is a long story, but the Prime Minister has said it, along with other things. Claim your own. Not only that, his attire, at least his shirt, seems like it was given to him from one of those not the Yoruba people, but another group of people in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
The name is evading me, but they have a lot of red. They wear a lot of red. Even they wear red. One of those large ethnic groups that came out, apart from the Yoruba people, they came out to the west in a great proportion.
Yeah. Well,
So
there are so many different tribes and different links, and I don't even try to remember them, you know. But when I saw him in the attire, I kind of ask myself, uh, is he just becoming aware of this? But then I give him a little leeway because it is better late than never.
I don't think so. The Prime Minister, our beloved Prime Minister, was exposed to certain information and knowledge prior to. But along the way,
Yes.
we get a little rusty.
Mm.
And when dignitaries, when leaders of state goes pay visits and so, like Mayor Motley, she went to Kenya, and it's the Agokaya people, is who protected her and gave her the blessing. That is why Mayor Motley is bold when she speaks. Because she knows she has the blessing from the Agokaya people, a large ethnic group in Kenya. I think a lot of them was like from the Mau Mau people,
Yeah.
the Agokaya people. They're the ones who keep Mount Kenya and the sacred sanctity of the mountain and all of that. We're spiritual people. We're talking about real spiritual people. That it was passed down to them, through the bloodline, to these keepers of the land. Similar to the Dogon people. Dogon means landlord,
Yeah.
I'm talking about real spiritual people, irrespective of how simple they are.
The Sound 98.9.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
They are the ones who keep the secret from time immemorial.
Yeah.
The Pope knows that. It's only certain people knows that. We, the simple people, lay people who just go to church and, go assemble mosque and, all those religious institutions. We just listen and, adhere to what is being said by the priest or the imam or the rabbi. But these people are real spiritual people. So when Mayor Motley went there to the agricultural people and she was being blessed to speak the way she's speaking, or she was emboldened to speak the way she's speaking, it ain't no eating nothing. But how can we reach our people to let our people know that it's time you wake up and take life serious? Some of us, we go through life not even knowing our role in this time. We go to be 50, 60, 70 years and not even knowing who we are, what position, what role we play in terms of human salvation, humanity. Because we were so cut off. So when you hear the Prime Minister say, they are our people, this is our space, that is your home. Come on, believe the Prime Minister now. You just believe him when you're ready to go and vote. Who he tell you to vote for, you just go and vote for who he tell you to vote for. So how can you can't believe him now to tell you that Africa's space is your space? How are you going to love anybody else? All other foreign people could go there and extrapolate your wealth, your inheritance, and sell it back to you?
Look, that Africa is what I fear is going to happen in relation to Guyana. It is the very same road they're heading down. ExxonMobil is going to go in there and they're going to extract, and a certain small number of Guyanese in a certain level of society are going to get filthy rich, but the masses of the people are going to remain poor.
A lot of things is going to be fixed towards their political spheres in terms of like a 5-year mandate. Because of the influence of the money, it's going to be fixed and there's going to be revolution. Because the masses of the people, because it's only going to benefit one small group of people, and the ethnic divide in Guyana also is going to play a pivotal role.
That is going to be a big problem also.
Because when the masses of the people are going to realize that it's not trickling down to them the way it's being quadrupling to this smaller group of people, And the smaller group of people is going to fix the election to have their 5-year mandate, similar to how Donald Trump is touting about even putting J.D. Vance up when he will be the one who pulls the string, so to speak. It happens. It can happen that way too.
Yeah, well,
So we are watching, and I am playing my role. My role is to prick the consciences of the people in an articulate way, in a sensible way, you know, in a logical way. Because I tell you what, Quint, I have been given commendation over the past week or so, 2 weeks, for stirring the conscience of the Prime Minister and him, Premier Brantley, to come out and speak to the people as leaders of these islands. Because they were too silent. And I hope also the Prime Minister going to Nigeria, I would have liked to ask him a question. That is why you journalists are known as the third estate of our economy, of our democracy.
yeah.
You are the ones, the journalists, who could ask the questions.
Well, not
Ask the questions to our Prime Minister on our behalf, because I cannot approach the Prime Minister and ask the type of question. I hope he would try to source some of the Nigerian doctors and nurses, because they are a resource of such also.
Yeah. I agree with you about the fifth estate, the fourth estate, whatever. But I'm the what?
The third estate.
The third
of
estate.
democracy.
Yes, but I'm not a journalist. There of recent time. A lot of individuals, when they get on the radio, in front of a microphone, and they can espouse an opinion or have a conversation with other individuals, they assign the title journalist to themselves. But I will not even begin to to go down that vein. I am not, and I will not. I have no intentions of asserting myself as a journalist. But I agree with you. It is the true journalist's job, to ask the riveting questions that makes the minds of this society open up, expand, and move to new horizons.
Because these are the things that I will really like to bring. But I think I'm appealing to the wider audience of the listening public. And so that message can be conveyed. Because the Prime Minister do have advisors, and they do listen to these radio programs.
Yeah.
And that is why they told him to go and speak to the nation. And he took their advice, rightly so. And we you know, because, come on, I would never, ever since I found myself, and I have been given the mandate to speak, I speak respectfully, and I don't look over my shoulder. Not even in the darkest of night does I look over my shoulder. I doesn't look over my shoulder. I walk as a free man on this earth.
Yeah.
In fact, death, I think I have already understand what death is, the process. It will eventually come my way. But for now, I have no fear of that thing called death. I live out my life respectfully, and to give and to contribute to humanity in what I was given, my gift, what I was given to do. And one of it is to speak. And so I speak.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, well,
Thanks.
thanks for taking the time to interject and bringing to the fore some very, very relevant aspect of our conversation. And we have been able to get our automated system back up by the kind assistance of one of my fellow colleagues who is very apt in such. So I'm going to take a bit of a commercial break and be back.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Do you want to know what's happening in sport? Tune in to On the Ball, a weekly tour show which is on WinFM 98.9 every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. with me, your host, Troy Biff Mills. We will keep you on the ball with our variety of guests and, of course, your calls, discussing the facts and the stats and sharing your opinions. Get on the ball and stay on the ball by tuning into On the Ball with Troy Biff Mills on WinFM 98.9 every Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. and also on Facebook and YouTube. Be on the ball.
If you live in low-lying areas, be aware of the possibility of tsunamis immediately after an earthquake. A strong earthquake lasting 20 seconds or more is a natural tsunami warning. Do not wait for an official warning. Gather your family members and evacuate immediately after the shaking stops. Don't delay. A tsunami could occur within minutes.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WinFM.
Welcome to Island Tea with your faves. Keep it locked in with us for your daily dose of hot tea, only on Win Media 98.9.
And I'm back with you and feeling a little better, a whole lot better, now that our automated system is up and running and I don't have to speak and speak and speak and speak and speak and keep speaking, being unable to take a bit of a break. But that is back up again, like I said, due to the aptitude of one of my fellow colleagues, and I say a very, very appreciative thanks to that individual. Okay, so the time is 9:21 here in the studios of WinFM 98.9. And again, if there's any other, no matter what issue I speak on, if there's any other issue that any one of you out there want to interject and speak on at any time, I will segue from whatever topic I am discussing and give you the priority and go down the vein of your conversation. But when you don't, if you don't interact, then I continue along the lines that I have outlined for myself. But if you feel inclined to give a call, the local numbers are 466-0989, 662-0989, and 762-0989. Again, the UK number 033-344-0065. The U.S. number 718-285-6984, and the number for those who reside in Canada 305-921-4619. Now, like I said, I always try to set the clips that I play in a way that they intermingle and accentuate and buttress one another to strengthen my argument or whatever I'm trying to put forward. So I spoke to you, and our good friend Africa interjected, and we were speaking about the exploitation of the wealth of individuals and countries, well, countries on a main, by first the colonialist and then now the neo-colonialist system, that it seems they have an unwritten code, and that unwritten code states, let me see if I can interact with this caller. Hello, good day to you.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, and good to hear your voice.
Are you giving God thanks?
Yes.
I'm not sleeping. I woke up early this morning.
Okay.
One of my smoke alarm began to make noise, so
okay.
I rose myself.
Yes.
I ended up calling the
fire department
station,
yes.
telling them to come and check.
Okay.
I just said it was the old TV in the bedroom making noise, and what I'm maybe heating up, huh?
Yes.
So, because I have smoke alarm all over the house.
Well, that's good. That strengthens your security.
Yeah, because you can't be everywhere.
Yes.
Give you a chance to get out. Because your life is important. So thanks to the firemen who came.
Yeah.
To inspect the place to see you know.
Yeah.
And thanks to my neighbor who came to turn it off for me.
Okay.
So he got me sleepy. Now, to the Guyana story, I am sure that they're not ignorant. While the U.S. may be a deterrent, nobody work for nothing.
Yes.
And our people lack good negotiating skills. I keep saying it.
Yes. That's something you always say.
Yeah. Because when you know exactly what the person wants, it gives you more power when you're negotiating.
Most definitely.
Because when they say, well, we want this, we want that, then you could say, look, you got your account and your numbers. Over the period of time, you would recover your investment.
Yes.
You get more than you would have gotten in the stock market.
Yeah.
So because we don't know how to negotiate, and we're not training our people, you're going to send some prime minister to go negotiate with an investor with large amount of money? Because our country is poor. First thing you're thinking about election, you know?
Yes.
You're not thinking about the future. Same thing in Africa.
Same thing in Africa.
Yeah. Because even with the road building, they could build the road and the railway bit by bit.
Yes.
Bit by bit. It's sound good to put on a whole long thing, and next thing, there's nothing in the economy to back it up. You understand? And so, the president or whatever of Guyana, he sees it from the defense point of view.
Yes.
But America not going to start no war down here. Who they going to fight against? Even Venezuelans, I don't think they're enough force to go with America.
No.
So you don't really need a base deal. America has been looking for a reason, any reason.
Any excuse, yeah.
To go into Venezuela. They would have gone in there before if they didn't expect to have a confrontation, you know.
Yeah.
So look, when they went into Grenada, they did not realize the people would have fight.
Yeah.
The same thing, but they know that Venezuelans always expect an invasion of some kind.
Yeah.
So, and because of that, they say, well, look, if the U.S. go into Venezuela, you have Brazil, you have all of these other countries here. Who fighting for who? You know, so our people got to learn, even in your own life, you're going to the bank, you got to have negotiating skills. Otherwise, they take your whole salary.
Yeah.
You know? Now, what you mentioned Trinidad, it was the oil market that destroyed Trinidad, you know.
I have a clip that I'm going to play along that vein. Go ahead.
Yeah, the price of oil fell so badly that they could not sustain anything.
Yeah.
I remember I was in UWI and one of my roommates, because we spent the 2 years in the same room. The Trinidad government, man, their money was running like dirt. The people had a lot of money, you know. They did a lot of infrastructure. But there wasn't a lot of put up somewhere.
Yeah.
So once the oil market crashed, could happen to Guyana, it could happen to the U.S. because OPEC and they could close down the whole thing any day.
Yeah.
Any day. So while they drill, baby drill, and the cost, the price you get for the oil is less than what you're paying to produce it. It will crash on its own.
Yeah.
So that the sovereign wealth fund, Trinidad has one, you know.
Yeah.
Guyana need to put extra in there. While everybody want to eat off the money, You build up your infrastructure Trinidad with all kind of highways and everything. It's in the midst of all of these large infrastructure projects that the market crash. So America is looking for another way out. And what they could do, when you save your money, do some of the investments your own self.
Yes.
Because while we condemn the people, it does not take a penny to get oil out of the ground, you know. And Caribbean governments are not going to join together to get the oil out of Venezuela. We're still very parochial insular.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But Sylvian, that's a good point. Let's use a hypothetical. Do you think that if Afenali was to make a proposal to the regional heads and say, why not make an investment? Do you think that they would? And the other side of it, if they made a proposal to him, do you think he would accept it, or he would think like so many leaders in the past would think, well, this is mine, I have it today, and, you know.
Well, that is it. We have the this is mine and in every case.
Yeah.
But we don't have the money. Trinidad might have, but then they're still, because they are too steeply devalued the money. They're still struggling with the oil industry. You know?
Yeah.
And the price fluctuates. I mean, the Arabs and whoever, OPEC could ruin you. Ruin you in a day.
I have an understanding that Jamaica, if they have not already, they're building a oil refinery, and that could help to some extent. But then again, it poses the question as to who will control and how much of that, of whatever money comes from the refining of oil, actually goes back into Jamaica and the wider Caribbean.
Out of Jamaica into the Caribbean? Say into Jamaica. I mean, you got to be real, you see? When they got these fanciful dreams of Africa, you know, all of these nice dreams, they sound good. Man is by inherently selfish, you know.
Yes, you're right.
A nation, when you got boundaries, it's worse. It worse.
But Sylvina, are you saying then that we should not hope? Or we should not try?
Hoping God.
Yeah, well, we hope.
No, you could generate some kind of cooperation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have all the functions and the boundaries must be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go and we go and invest, and next thing happens, well, it's ours. You know, you never like, this is ours.
Yes.
And we're not even armed to fight anybody. We're not armed. All I would say that the president of Guyana should have sought some kind of thing from other people.
Yeah.
Advice.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because now in America, it was a Trump in there. Trump is trying to own everybody's country. Mm-hmm. He also wants to own the whole of Europe.
But he's not going to get that happen anyway, you know.
Well, man, he has aspirations. His aspirations, he's talking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What are our aspirations, I think it's?
Well.
I mean, these things should be articulated.
I agree.
The people either buy it or they don't buy it.
Yeah.
You're going to build a new hospital. For what? Who own it? Who will own it? We're going to do this. Where's the money coming from? You must look for the best market. It isn't everybody who lending you in good terms, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them is the same manipulation. So if you got to give up something, you must give up something for something better.
Hello. There's another call on the line. Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, man. How you doing, man?
I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yes.
Firstly, I just want you or somebody to distinguish for the listening public between tariffs and sanctions. And that might be a simple one, yeah, but
Well,
persons
well,
listening,
well,
they
well.
might need to.
That would have been a very, very good question to ask the lady who just hung up, because
Yeah, I
that's
mean, yeah, yeah, she
yeah,
can come back in. I'll appreciate it. Good morning to Miss
yeah.
Henry.
I won't try to venture. I have an idea, but I
Yeah.
would not try to venture to delve too deeply in that. Would leave that to individuals who are better versed.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Some of us, like the teacher say, no question is a silly question.
yes,
We need to distinguish between, since we're talking so much about these terminologies,
yes.
we need to distinguish between tariffs and sanctions because, some persons might be getting it mixed up.
Mm.
Anyway,
What
I
is
made
your
this recommendation.
what is your understanding of them, tariffs and sanctions?
I don't think I want to I don't think I want to
Delve
answer the
either.
question right now.
Okay.
I want to,
Let
I want to
somebody let somebody
I want to pull the same thing. I want to pull the same thing like you.
Yes, yes.
Both of us not going to answer that. We put that out to the public.
Yes. To
Like,
those
we don't want to mess up. We don't want to mess up and put the wrong information out there, man.
you understand? So we're going to leave that to individuals who are better versed in that along that vein. Yes.
Yeah, and that's not our field. That's not my field.
Yeah.
And like this, man. We don't want to put the wrong information out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then we get chastised. Anyway, I made this recommendation before. You made a great point there about the oil refinery in Jamaica. Jamaica is pushing ahead with their energy, and I heard somewhere along the line that Trinidad is selling off their oil refinery, their oil assets down there because they must be running into difficulties.
Yeah.
And Canada, the new prime minister up there, he is asking for the Caribbean islands to link up with Canada if they feel like they want to dump Trump or dump America at this time. They can link up with Canada for trade. But, I feel that the Caribbean islands are in a great position right now. They said that they found all oil down in Grenada as well. We have oil in Guyana. St. Nevis is exploring geothermal, Dominica. And, we have some resources that I believe can sustain us, man.
Yeah, but
And,
but even though we have I'm sure that scattered around the Caribbean region, throughout the Caribbean archipelago, that there are reserves, but what our leaders will have to do is to think ahead and think about if and when, how they're going to benefit from whatever is discovered in the future. Because it's easier said than done. For instance, that point that you made, that Trinidad is now thinking of selling off their oil, the things that they have, assets and so forth. It shows the example that you can think along a certain vein, but to maintain certain things, you need to have an aptitude. You need to have skilled individuals, and if it is that you're going to let a foreign business come in and deal with whatever, you're going to have on the dotted line and serious stipulations, and see them implemented from the beginning.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah.
But I made a recommendation before to the prime minister. Me personally, to kind of like boost him up, especially when he seemed like he was going through his rough spots. I recommended that he should have just bring in one of the leaders in the Caribbean on a state visit to try to boost him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to boost his administration. And I recommended to him that before, and I ain't seen the movements yet. But I would think that he should have brought in somebody like a Irfan Ali, the leader down there in Guyana, or Deacon Mitchell in Grenada.
Yeah.
We need to show that we can forge relationships in the Caribbean as well.
Most definitely, I agree.
and definitely, right, that Irfan Ali state visit would have been good because we have a lot of Guyanese living in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
He should really think about doing something like that, man. And to show that we can forge our relationships in the Caribbean region as well, because they went out to Nigeria, and there's a lot of criticism with that Nigerian trip because me personally, I want to see action, man. It's time that we show action to our people, man. We went out to Nigeria, but I'm gonna tell you, for the remainder of this administration that's in right now, for the remainder of this current administration's term, if we don't see something materialize out of that Nigeria trip, it's disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's disappointing. We just making these trips and making these photo ops and all this talk. Man, we need some action in the place.
I agree.
We need to have show some tangible stuff, man. You know, all the money that these guys collected through that CBI program, St. Kitts and Nevis should be in tip-top shape. We the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, we don't have no idea of how much money the man squander off and mismanage. The place needs to be in tip-top shape. Our roads them could have been immaculate, man. We could have had a state-of-the-art hospital, man. Our schools for our kids, up to now, they're still arguing over this Bastet High School. You know, me, myself, I was so disconnected to this stuff, man. I personally feel I'm going to just disconnect myself again because it ain't nothing happening in St. Kitts Nevis, man. You cannot point to any one thing. I left there since 1985. We cannot point to anything, one thing, revolutionary that can set St. Kitts and Nevis apart from the rest of the Caribbean. You know, we too much wrangling back and forth, man.
Yeah.
The party politics is killing the place. You know, persons, when they're affiliated with the government is doing wrong, and they would never speak up. You know, is the thing when people are getting their hands greased. You know, all of those type of stuff got to be put away, got to be put aside, man. Country above self. We need someone, these leaders. We need a new leader primarily because these recyclables, I hate to see that we have to go back to these recyclables because all of those recycled politicians that been in office and was there when all their money was coming in, the people need to push them aside. They don't have no good intentions for St. Kitts Nevis. We need to try new people. Somebody need to rise up from out of the ashes. You see what's going on in Burkina Faso? That's the type of stuff I like, man. That's the type of stuff. This guy's like my new hero right now. Ibrahim Traore, he's like my new hero right now because he's doing stuff.
I like what is happening in Burkina Faso, but there's also positive things happening in Niger and Mali also, because it's three of them.
Correct.
And
that's correct.
I don't like that we always single out only Ibrahim.
One country.
Yeah, because
no. Well. I'm gonna move in your vein.
Yes.
Me, I'm gonna tell you yes. I'm gonna say that collectively,
yes,
they're moving in the right direction because of the fact that they formed that federation already amongst themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's
they're setting up.
Traore. You're correct about that.
Yeah, they're setting the kind of examples that we want to see. For instance, the point that you were making that our leaders should show that he can form alliance in our immediate region. They're already doing that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the scrutinies that the contingent that went out to Nigeria, one of the contingent that one of the criticism that they're coming under is that people are seeing that leader in Nigeria as a corrupt leader.
Ah, well,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I've been hearing that.
And then we're asking the question: why is our prime minister affiliating with a corrupt leader? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've
like
heard that.
The old people, let me pull something out of Kalanchi's book. Like the old people say, birds of a feather stick together, man.
Yeah.
We got to be careful, but it's like living by example, and the examples that we're showing our children is very important.
Yeah.
But you know, the focus of the federation right now has to people have to start putting their focus forward in the next election.
Mm-hmm.
2 years or less. That time is rapidly approaching.
Yeah.
And I'm veering on the side of the electorates, really.
Yeah.
On the politician side, for them to get ready, that's a different story. But the electorates, I want the electorates to start thinking ahead and start getting ready to make that conscious decision, because the election is going to be real critical.
Yeah.
For all of the persons that's criticizing this current government, we want to see if and when that election comes, what kind of decisions they're going to make. And then, the government has their supporters as well.
Yeah.
So we just want to, the best for the country. Me personally, I want my leaders them to start being more mature than they are, because the way how that team unity imploded, that was real disappointing. I came to St. Vincent Believers 2015, and I saw what happened on the ground. The people was mobilized, and they were energized, and they made a decision to move the prior government. And then to see how they imploded, I'm putting it right out to those leaders in that structure of team unity. It was disappointing. Disappointing because the egos took them over, and the country deserves more maturity than that. Because if that's what we're going back to, that means St. Nevis is in a political crisis. And I hope when the results of the next election is announced, chaos don't break out in Boston because of that immaturity from our leaders. And that's all I want to say right now, man. Thanks a lot, and I wish St. Nevis the best going forward. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Well, you take care, and thanks for your interjection and the conversation. Let's take a bit of a commercial break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Hey, have you heard about the water shortage in our area?
Yeah, it's pretty serious. I've been trying to conserve water as much as possible.
Me too. I've started taking shorter showers and turning off the faucet when I brush my teeth.
Well, that's great. Another way to save water is to fix any leaks in your house.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. How much water can a leak waste?
A small leak can waste up to 20 gallons of water daily, which can really add up over time.
Wow, that's a lot. And have to check for any leaks in my house.
But another good tip is to only run your dishwasher and washing machine when they're full to save water and energy.
I'll keep that in mind. It's important that we all do our part to conserve water, especially during this shortage.
Absolutely. Every drop counts.
This message was brought to you by the St. Kitts Water Services Department. Learn more at water.gov.kn.
Basta! We run things, things are on we. Basta! Basta! Living color, do it differently. Basta! Basta! Not an in charge, like for the party. Basta! Basta! We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
7 flavors, best taste, Buster, bolder, better, better. Pick your color.
We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
Buster, live in full color.
Buster.
Let's get real on Win FM. Hi, this is Lavi. Let's get real Wednesday nights at 8 on Win FM. Get ready for an hour of real talk that will keep you engaged and informed, bringing you insights, the hottest topics of the moment, and perspectives that matter from the runway to the political arena. Real talk with Lavi covers all. Let's get real Wednesday nights at 8 on Win FM.
Welcome to Island Tea with your faves. Keep it locked in with us for your daily dose of hot tea, only on Win Media 98.9.
And I've come to just about the end of my stint. I'm just going to see if I can squeeze in this little bit of a clip that deals with a neighboring island who went down the vein of of oil wealth and is now sort of suffering from some of the repercussions of the exploitation of the riches of oil. Not everything is as always as it seems.
Why is Trinidad so poor when it's actually so rich? A country with a population of roughly 1.4 million and a GDP, gross domestic product, meaning the amount of money the country produces from its natural resources, which is oil and gas, 30 billion. A population of 1.4 million with a GDP of roughly 30 billion has broken infrastructure, broken hospital, broken roads, families living paycheck to paycheck. How can a country with 30 billion GDP be in this position? I'm going to break this down for you. The money in Trinidad isn't going to you. The money in Trinidad is being siphoned off legally and illegally by a system rigged for the rich. Let me say that again. The money in Trinidad is being siphoned off legally and illegally by a system designed for the rich. On paper, every man, woman, and child in Trinidad should be getting around 21,000 US dollars a year. Every man, woman, and child, based on our GDP. But most people see a fraction of that. Where's the money going? Where is that money going? Let's follow the money. First, the tax scams, big corporation, especially the oil and gas industry, take billions in waivers from government, while a market vendor is at the side of the road selling apples and oranges pay tax. 14 billion in corporate tax breaks since 2016. Then there's the capital flight. Capital flight is the money that leaves Trinidad for offshore accounts. So we're talking about luxury real estate in Miami and Dubai, shell companies in Panama, the Pandora Papers. Google it to get your information from that. That would tell you a lot about where politicians and the elites are hiding their wealth while your school can't afford to buy a textbook. And here's the sickest part of all of this. They're blaming you. They're blaming you for the state that the country is currently in. They will tell you the country's struggling, that we all have to tighten our belt. But ask yourself, who's actually tightening theirs? Who's holding them to account? Who's holding the politicians to account? Who's holding the elites, the millionaires and the billionaires in this country to account? Who's holding the man with the mansion in Westmoreland to account? The minister with the offshore account, who's holding him to account? Ask yourself these questions. This isn't an accident, by the way. This is by design. This is a system the rich use to get richer, and anyone that gets richer, you have people who are, by default, getting poorer. There is no middle class in Trinidad anymore. That's been wiped out. There is no middle class. So there's a rich and there's the poor. And while those in power pretend nothing's going on, they know full well where the wealth of Trinidad is going to. We need to hold politicians accountable or nothing changes. The crime rate stays the same. Nothing will change in Trinidad until you, the people, hold these politicians to account.
And that's how I'm going to end things. I'll leave you with that sort of a reverberating to your mind to think about. And I am going to bid you adieu. Do continue to have a great day. And be prepared for the upcoming program.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Tune in to Creative Voices, the ultimate radio call-in program where innovation meets inspiration. Join me, Dr. Sarah